Hey guys, the topic for today is how to create a logic app to store data in storage account. The example we are going to use in this video is related with user data. We are using logic app to send the data to a Blob storage. So the data will be stored in the JSON format. Let's start with what is logic app. Logic app is very useful, especially when you are working in business to business model. We need to create some automated workflows which are supposed to run on certain interval, or they are scheduled to run on some specific time, let's say nightly workflows. They are always integrated with some apps, internal data, or some services, maybe internal or external, and some related systems. We can achieve this using Logic App. The best thing about Logic App is they are highly scalable and it is easy to integrate these solutions with the system. You can use App Designer and you can also use Code View. Okay, now I show you steps. The scenario is we have to store user data in form of JSON, and the JSON should be stored in storage account, the blob storage. So first thing, we need a storage account. So you can either click here or you can write in the search bar. So let's go there. Click the create. Now you need to choose the resource group and the name of the storage. So for this demo, let's say JSON user data, and the region for this demo, it is okay to keep it in East US, and the performance wise, let's keep it as standard. Now next, well, I keep this security setting as default. So next, this part is very important for you if you want to keep your storage private. Then you need to choose the option, but for our demo I'm going to choose the public, and I go to next, and I leave this as default. So review and create. Okay, validation passed, that means good. Okay, so deployment is done. Go to resource. Now we need a container, so click the containers, and we already have a default one, so let's create a one, and I leave this as it is. The name I give is user data, and let's create it. Okay, so it is created. If you want to view this, you can go to Storage Explorer and you can see blob container, and we have one user data. It is empty at the moment, which is very normal because we did not push any, we did not upload anything, so it is fine. Now we are going to create a logic app. So go to add and let's select the consumption. Okay, so the steps are same, resource group, and then you have to provide the name and region. So name I choose is SLS logic app user data. And I leave these as default, and I review and create. Okay, validation has passed, so let's create it. Okay, let's go to resource. Okay, so now we have a screen, so we need to create the logic app. So first thing, we need to define a trigger. So let's select when a HTTP request is received. Now we have to use the method and relative path. I leave relative path as empty and I choose method, and now I choose post. So with a post request to this logic app, the data will be received. So the other step is, now it is a post request, we have to define the body of the JSON. So we can use a sample JSON payload. So this means that what will be the how data will look like. So first thing I want is when the action is create, then the user ID, and then the user data. So I go with this, and when I hit the done button, you can see the JSON schema is generated for us. So it defines the object properties and action and the type. So action and user ID and the user data, they all are of type string. Okay, this is fine. Now we need a condition. So if you scroll little down, you can see built-in control built-in. So we have to choose the condition. So what should happen when it meets the condition as true and false? So when it is a true, I will add one more action, and this time I'm going to select Azure Blob storage. So I click create a blob. So when a post request is received, create a blob, which is a JSON file, and the JSON file will contain the payload which we have added as a sample. So I add create. Now we need to create the connection. So I add the connection name and authentication type, access key, and the storage is SLS JSON user data. Now we need access key. So to get the access key, go to the storage account, just scroll down in security and networking, access keys. So now you have access keys here. Show access key, copy this and paste it here and create. Okay, so connection is created now. Just select the connection that we just created and the folder where the data should reside. So click this folder so you can see user data. And user data, it is the container name. So if you go and check it here, it is the same. So let's go back to logic app section. Now what should be the blob name? I call it the same as the user ID. So user ID is the blob name, and I call it .json. So it will be a JSON file, and the content for this should be the body, right? So now this is done. Now let's save it. Okay, so it's time to test it. First thing we need is go to the trigger. We need a callback URL, and we can get the callback URL by going to overview and then trigger history, and we need to copy this, and we are going to use a postman. So you can see the postman. This is a application which you can use to work with APIs. So let's go to example. So we are going to use post request, and now we need the URL. So we can get the URL from here is the callback URL. I copy this and I paste it here. Right, now the second thing is the header. This should contain the value application.js. So we write here content type, so application.js, and now we need to select here the raw, and the data that I'm going to pass is action is create, and user ID is 1234, user data is some simple data here. We have missed one thing. We did not apply the condition. So let's go back to the logic app. So if we go to condition, so now I create a condition that if action, which is here, is equal to create. So when the action is create, then the condition is true and blob will be created. So let's save this. So back to Postman. Now I send the request and let's see what happens. Okay, so we got 202 accepted. So in logic app overview, and I see run history, it looks one time it is executed. So if I click it, I can see the detail. So request came, condition met, you can see a check, and then this condition has met as well. So our blob should be there. So now let's go to the blob storage, and we are already in the container. So I just refresh it. Now you can see the JSON. So this JSON should contain the user data. So I click this and I download this. So you can see the data here. So this file contains the all information, what was the request, what was the user ID, and the data of the user. So this is all, and thanks for watching.